Hello. We're back.
We are back.
We're always back.
And
well,
who
you're
are
front.
you?
My name is Misha.
And my name's Nez.
Oh, hello.
And this is Luxury Unedited.
Oh, yeah, okay. We're Luxury Unedited. But we have with us today
Paul
from
Paul from Sotheby's.
Sotheby's.
And I'm Pritam Mukhi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys. Welcome to the show. I'm going to give a bit of a disclaimer here. It might get a little bit out of hand, and especially that none of you brought me big diamonds. I mean, I was hoping to see something, try it on, play around a bit. It's okay.
Don't worry, we have this like the beginning of every show.
Yeah, I want things,
I
especially
want
shiny. How are you, Nez?
okay.
You going
I'm
to kick us
good.
off?
We'll kick us off. So today's episode is called Cultivated Obsessions. And we're going to go across with these gentlemen, everything from jewellery to watches to the contemporary market. So what we'll do, we'll do a little introduction perhaps. Pritam, you are the founder of Appraisal.ae, is that correct?
Appraisals.ae.
Appraisals, apologies. And it's
Put your teeth back in, Nez.
Third generation jeweller and gemologist.
Correct. Third generation here in the UAE, but actually going back, in and around the Middle East since the 1930s or 40s. Actually.
Oh.
And actually, I'm friends
Even
with
before you were born, Nez.
I'm friends with some of your cousins.
Yeah, you are.
You're big. I mean, it's
what,
like
from back then?
It's an extended family.
I believe you gave him an award.
I did give an award. I give out awards.
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah, she does.
I'm
She's
very
famous.
important in
She's
real
very
life,
important
Gotta tell the
outside
story.
of this
Gotta tell the
studio.
story.
Go and tell the story another time. But let's focus on you.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about your industry in terms of why you went into appraisals? What is the importance of it?
To begin with, I got into appraisals by chance. A good friend of mine has an insurance brokerage called Nexus. I'm pretty sure you know Samira Najumi.
Yes.
And the family, very old friends. Yeah. And they had a lot of clients, people moving into Dubai when the property market opened, moving their assets here, and said, we need somebody to appraise their jewelry for their insurance. So submitted my credentials to the companies. Mm-hmm. It was all okayed in New York, Switzerland, wherever the insurance companies were based, and we started. And that was in around 2009. I moved into doing it more full-time a couple of years ago. I was working with the family business, mainly in retail.
Right.
We had a lot of branded jewelry, but we'd also buy a lot of our own stones and manufacture a lot of our own lines. But it's grown and grown and grown organically over time.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun.
And it's almost like detective work from what you were telling me.
Absolutely.
And that's what I loved about it. So when they get a piece, it's like there's a whole sort of process.
Well, it needs provenance, right?
Yeah.
Without provenance, a lot of it, unless it's the really big stones.
Provenance is a tricky thing. I mean, you start with a finished thing and have to work backwards.
Yeah.
Paul and I talk a lot about this, actually, trying to figure out where something came from, how it ended up where it is.
But can I ask you, I mean, I know a lot of my friends that own fantastic watches, that own really great pieces of jewelry, and a lot of them don't insure them because it's becoming so expensive to insure these big ticket items. So unless it's like a really big stone, a lot of them will just think, okay, I'm going to keep it in a safety deposit box. You'd be astounded by how many people don't insure, especially their really expensive watches, which is a bit weird for me.
See, with watches and jewelry, you've got to consider there's a mobile risk.
Right.
But there are ways to bring those premiums down depending on where you store your valuables, how much you want to take around with you, travel with, what's your bedside limit, etc., etc. There's a lot of fine print, but it doesn't always have to be that expensive.
And I think at this point, if I can just interject, if we introduce Paul, because there's a lot of questions that we have for you guys that actually we can throw at both of you. So could you tell us a little bit about your position within Sotheby's, and then also if you could touch on your background, because you've gone from retail to auction house.
Yeah, so my name's Paul Redmayne. I'm Senior Vice President, Luxury Sales at Sotheby's.
Excuse me.
Senior
Vice President. Senior Vice President in the room.
But we just want to
I know,
point
I'm
out
joking. Yes.
the
Yes,
jewels.
the jewels. The jewels.
Where
We're
are
still
those
waiting.
jewels?
Yeah.
Where are the jewels? Haven't checked my bag yet.
Yeah.
And so I've been 5 years in auction, and before this I was 20 years in retail. So I started, the same as Pritam, I started by chance. And speaking to a lot of
This
colleagues.
is a bad message to any kids growing up. Just start your
Wing
career
it,
by
boys
chance.
and girls, wing it.
A lot of colleagues, when we say, how did you get into this? How did you get into this? So many people is by chance. It's by chance, it's by default.
I
And
guess
then they
you
just
don't-
fell into
Well,
the
it's
groove.
also
and
a
then
gap in
that's
the
it.
market, what you see, and then think, okay, I can do this. There's a
Well, you
place for me.
don't growing up at school say, I
You-
want to be a fireman, I want to work in an auction house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it is.
And so my journey going from retail, so I started at Cartier in 1997, but I was rapper runner.
We
So
love
it was
a
2 weeks,
rapper
it was 2
runner.
weeks of Christmas, and I was doing the gift wraps. So the team would sell, I'd do the gift wraps, and I'd jump in a taxi and deliver.
Very handy.
And then I got on well with the manager and the team, and I was studying at university in London, and he said, come back in January. University Monday to Friday, and then Saturday come and work in Cartier.
I
So
have a
did.
very serious question for you. When you were rapping and running, why didn't you say, Misha, where are you?
What were you studying?
French.
French.
Oh.
Studying
Okay.
French.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why they liked you.
Yeah.
And then I worked for
Mange
Cartier
tout,
in
mange
Paris.
tout.
And then when I finished my degree, came back to London and did my Saturday job again. And then Cartier offered me a full-time role in sales.
Amazing.
In
Sales.
sales, yeah. So I started like that. So I've always been client-facing,
Yeah.
always been front of house. And then I lived so I was 7 years in Paris. I'm from London. Started in London, lived in 7 years in Paris, and then I moved to Hong Kong, and I was 10 years in
How
Hong
did
Kong.
you survive 7 years in Paris? I can barely survive Fashion
I loved
Week.
it. I lived in Montmartre, so I felt like you feel
Yeah,
like
yes,
you're
you
on
feel-
holiday
actually,
all the time.
Montmartre
You're
is
just-
different.
You're up
I
on the
guess
hill.
the croissant.
Yes,
You're
the
up on the hill.
croissant.
So
Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
He was
it's
young,
different.
single, unmarried.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
living
we'll end
the
that
Parisian
story
life.
there.
Well, it could be, instead of Emily in Paris, Paul in Paris.
I mean, do you have to insure whatever comes through your doors?
Yeah.
Do you have
So
to have
when we-
someone, you have it, I guess, appraisal team
Yeah, so
within-
we go out and we do a valuation, and then we'll bring the pieces back, and obviously we're insured. We have a certain limit to
Yeah, of course.
where our insurance is, and then you have the house insurance as well, so where you're insured for each office, each location.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, Sotheby's has a very malleable
Yeah.
policy because we have everything. We've got
Yeah.
art, we've got crazy artwork,
Crazy art. Did you
crazy in
see
terms
Oliver
of
Barker?
size, and crazy into physically
Yeah.
the size,
We just-
and moving those pieces around, and also in terms of value. And then here now this week we've got these two stones. So we've got the pink diamond.
He
10
didn't
carat
bring the pink diamond.
The
which
pink
is,
diamond is insane. I saw a friend of mine who's a journalist came to interview you guys about the diamond, and he showed us some footage.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Like every season there's a very special stone.
Mm-hmm.
This pink diamond, there's hyperbole doesn't begin with it. It's in any light. It's the most popping bubblegum pink. It's absolute. It's
How many
incredible.
carats is
10
it?
10
It's
carat
10
57.
carat, 57.
It's internally flawless as well, which is rare. for
That's
a
very
diamond.
rare.
But it's the crystal. It's just this popping pink.
Is the pink diamond more valuable than a blue diamond, or I think the blue diamond is more valuable? At the moment?
They're
Are
comparable. Pink,
Yeah.
I would say pink's edge it, and I think the market. I think there are more people. If you line up 20 people, I think more
18
people
would
would
like the
prefer
pink.
a pink than a blue.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. I mean, maybe it's one of you would like to answer, or both of you, I'm not sure. But the origins of the gemstones, how does that affect the price of...
Blood diamond. She's talking.
No, I'm not just
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about but emeralds they do,
Yeah,
for example.
Well, Colombian emeralds, there's a lot of history behind
Yeah.
them. It's not only that, but the actual deposits where they form, the crystals are just that little bit different. If you compare a Colombian to a Zambian stone, at the top end they would be comparable, but a Colombian stone is colored more by the chromium, for example, which gives it a slightly different appearance, to a Zambian stone which is colored with chromium and vanadium to a certain extent. So you have a slightly different hue.
And that's really reflected in the price, though, as well, right? So
And
when you
in
get
the
a
end,
Colombian emerald,
it's a coloured stone.
Yeah.
It's about the colour.
But it's such a soft. I mean, emeralds are my absolute favourites, but they're such fragile stones because if you bang them, I mean,
I mean, I wouldn't wear an important emerald every day.
yeah,
You know, that is
Yeah.
a risk.
yeah.
But
It's almost like a branding. The country of origin has become a brand. So
Yeah.
Colombia is a brand, and
Yes.
people, Colombia.
Yeah.
Whereas when you do look at a fine Zambian and a fine
Yeah.
Colombian, they're both
Probably not
they're
much
exquisite.
difference.
They're
Yeah.
exquisite, but and Zambia is definitely coming up, and the same with the rubies.
Oh,
But
big
also
one.
Brazil is
Big
coming
ones,
up, isn't it? Like there's
Mozambique.
now Brazilian emeralds that I noticed.
that's an old story. But
Yeah.
they're not. I mean, the material's just not as quite as fine as the
Yeah.
Colombian and the Zambian material coming out.
But don't you find it's what people are willing to spend these days? I find, like fashion, you've got people that wanting to have a piece, you know, to be able to afford an emerald, but not necessarily they can't afford a Colombian emerald. So it's, you know, it's okay. We'll source something. It's still an emerald, but it's not of the same quality. And I think a lot of people just want the Instagram photo kind of, you know, to be able to wear these kind of pieces.
But what I find quite interesting is all the marketing that's behind all of this. So you mentioned just about the brands, you know, it's become a brand. So even with diamonds were never really, like it was, there's a history of the diamond where it was something that was created. I don't know whether it was Tiffany or before
I think it was De Beers, no?
that they created this like,
the slogan.
The
Yeah.
slogan
Diamond is
that
forever.
Diamond is
forever, yeah.
To bring them out of
That was
the
De Beers,
slump
I thought, no?
post-depression. Yeah.
And then
De
we
Beers, yeah.
always hear about them they're becoming rarer and rarer. Is that true? Because we also then read about supply and demand, and it's really the big families that are controlling all of this.
I don't know if I'm right, Paul, but I believe I've always heard that diamonds, there are a lot of them. And if they were released into the market, then your big 10 carats really not as worth as much as you think it is at the moment in terms of the plain white diamonds, because De Beers have had a really strong hold on the diamond market.
This is where Paul's trying to calculate what he can
What
say.
can he can say, what can't. We don't want you to get into
Without
trouble.
getting into trouble.
I'm thinking of an anecdote. So a couple of
Yes.
years ago, a client of mine phoned me up and he said, right, Paul, he's a private client. He said, I want to buy a 10 carat D flawless. I said, okay, excellent. So we're looking at around about $1 million. And so I put the feelers out, and I got back to him and I spoke to one of a dealer friend of mine, and he said, I was just talking about you with my dad a couple of days ago because we've got this very special stone. It's a historical stone.
As you do.
And
As you
thought
do.
it, you know, you might have someone for it. So he told me about this stone, and I was super excited. It was a Golconda diamond. So it's still a D internally flawless, but Golconda, and it's a bit wibbly wobbly in shape. Super historical from India, from back in the day, and they have this whiteness. If you have a D color
Yes,
diamond, this is the A, the B, the C. The reason D starts at D is because of Golcondas for me, because they're just another level of whiteness. So I called the client back and I said, right, we've got two options. Option one, I've got 5 D flawlesses, so we can go with that. But option two is, for less money, I've got a slightly smaller stone, but it's a Golconda. And he just jumped on this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said, and I said, look, if you want it, we can absolutely pull the trigger on the D flawless. Quite happy to do that. But this stone, super rare, you know how special, I'll send you a video. So I sent him the video, and boom, that was that.
And then what happens with that stone?
So then the stone, so this was the question I think coming to later about technology, about my life is on WhatsApp. Like everything is on WhatsApp. So I was in Hong Kong at the time. So I'm in Hong Kong, the stone is in the Middle East, and the client is in Europe. And it's just connecting the dots.
But as in, do they just keep it? Is it something that just, it's like I think back to your industry where it's part of like family inheritance, and then, you know, how do you...
Does that go up in value, though, something like that? Will it?
Yes, and for me, like, we can never read
it's
what's
so
coming
rare.
in the future. For me, I think Golcondas are so undervalued.
Absolutely.
They're so undervalued because they are the
Sounds like a
absolute
movie.
best of best in class. They're another level of stone. They're just beautiful. And you can't
That's
find
where
them.
Tavernier made his biggest finds. It was from the Golconda mines in South India.
Nice.
the famous blues, other colours too. I think even the Kohinoor is a gold.
Yeah, it's a gold content. And the
I'm just hoping you don't mention the coronation.
Yeah, don't mention the coronation. Not now, not now, not now, not now.
Okay.
No, we're going to behave.
Has the mood changed over the years? I mean, are people like selling less, or are they holding on to their things, or are they releasing because they need to? Or?
It's interesting now, certainly in the Middle East. This is now very much a sourcing market. And traditionally, it was split between East and West. So 10 years in Hong Kong, you would typically source in the West and you would sell to the East. It would be harder to source in Asia to then sell in the West, but you would, the noble families, the older pieces, the more historical stones, the historical pieces, Cartier from the 1940s, 1950s, you would find that in the West.
Yes.
And the appetite is going up and up in the East for those pieces. So it was quite clear cut, but now everything's becoming blurred.
Yeah, like remember when we had Leah on for the watch episode, and her family are also into the antique and the older jewelry, and she had the Cartier and Graf pieces from them were spectacular. But there's always that old adage as well, is that everything is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it in the room.
Yeah.
And we always say, look, buy what you like, because don't buy just for.
He
that
obviously
seems to
follows
be
Watch Fashionista.
Yes.
Buy what you like, people. Buy what you like.
That really stood out to me from our podcast.
Yeah.
This is
Buy
to
what you
wear,
like.
to enjoy.
To enjoy.
Yeah, the watches.
I have no
Anything,
interest.
the jewelry, the watches, your clothes, whatever it is.
You have to love and wear them.
Do you ever come across something in your line of work where you come across something so rare that or do you have any stories of people not really understanding
the value of
what they have?
Yeah, oftentimes, because they may have inherited or been gifted something that they don't like, so they don't wear. And when you get to explaining what they've got in front of them, it could be a very nice surprise.
You told me a great story about someone that had you come over. She just had like a box of...
Oh yeah, the shoe box in her cupboard. So we'd gone through all her jewelry. She goes, there's some gold in that box. I reach up, the box wouldn't move. So took a chair just to take it down carefully. I didn't know what I was going to break if I dropped it. I put it down. Took hours to untangle all these chains and count these coins and check the purity. Every birthday, Eid, Diwali, Christmas,
everything.
Birth of a child, whatever, just gold coins. It's very typical in this part of the world to give gold. Don't know what to give gold. And she just kept putting it in this box. It ended up being around 3.5 kilos or something. This is in 2011.
Yeah.
And when I told her, do you know what you have? She said, I have no idea. I haven't looked in the box for 10 years. And when I actually calculated how much she had, she almost started crying because this just paid for my kids' university right now.
Wow. See, stories like that you love.
Yeah.
I always remember Antique Roadshow.
My wardrobe. That's why I was thinking about Antique Roadshow.
I remember. I'll never forget that guy that was about to be homeless, and he said, "This is the last thing I have from my grandfather." It was some silver bits, remember? And it was worth £300,000.
Yeah, there was an amazing...
You could change people's lives, Pritam.
Well, they don't know what they have, you know? I mean...
But it can also go the other way as well. Someone thinks, I remember, my
fiancé
bought me this wonderful ring. Not really.
But yeah, that is pretty cool. I'm just so curious about this, topic that you were talking about in terms of resellers, sellers, auction houses. I mean, if we could just touch on that, I think what is the value? I don't understand the value then of going to an auction house. If you could just give me a succinct...
It's the trust.
It's the trust.
You're absolutely getting what you think you're getting. So, the reason that the big four auction houses have all been going since 1700. And that's for a reason. It's that branding, it's that trust, and also it's the reach that we have as well. It's incredible. We can find anything.
But also made much more accessible by. I mean, if you only have to watch the art auction recently, and I mean Oliver Barker I'm a huge fan, right? Yeah. And you've got people bidding on the phone, people bidding through social media, you've got people bidding through everywhere. So now your reach, is incredible. And but that also drives the price up.
And it's not just for the auction though, because the auction houses are going more and more into what I'm what I do for Sotheby's, which I lean into auction, but I do private sales.
Yeah.
So you've got the two auction seasons, which are the spring season and the fall season, but people who want to buy and sell outside of those periods, or if they want to sell something discreetly, or if they want to buy something quickly, there's an anniversary, there's a birthday coming up in July
so you
or
don't
August.
have to wait for an auction. You
No,
can
no.
actually call.
I
actually didn't know
So
that.
I go off and I source. So if someone's looking for a 10 carat D flawless, I'll go and source it, and it's just a one-on-one transaction.
Can you give him Ali's number?
No, so that's what I meant in terms of technology, which we'll touch on later, because I just feel there's a big gap for auction houses in terms of technology and how you can work with private clients. But anyway, is there a difference, do you think, more recently in terms of what people are, you talked about private clients, is there a different in the ask? Like, is there a different, are they stemming towards gold and jewellery during this time, or is it watches, or... you also sort of dip your toe into the contemporary market as well. And what does the contemporary market look like?
So it tends to mirror the fashion world. So you've got haute couture, you've got fast fashion, and people mix and match. And so you get, and the world has definitely become more informal. There are fewer functions, and depending on the geographic
She's a living
region,
example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
but
The mix and match of that.
and it's depending on the geographic region as well. There are fewer functions, for instance, in London now, and I think people would be less comfortable wearing an important watch, an important piece of jewellery in London, whereas here, Singapore, Hong Kong,
You can still wear what you want.
You're fine, and there are still the functions as well.
Yeah.
But also, when we're talking about, in different forms, it's not just diamonds anymore. Look what people are paying for sneakers.
Yeah, so I noticed, so that's what I meant in terms of the contemporary market was, you had those worn...
the match worn.
The match worns,
Yeah, and it wasn't even a pair. It was 6 sneakers. Some were a left, some were a right. And they were from 91, 92, 93, and then he retired. Then he came back. It was from the last match when he retired. And then we had the 3 subsequent ones, and the final one was his very last match-worn shoe. And they're for sale privately.
Well,
there's a massive market.
But I think crypto money, young people's money, went into not so much the stones and the important jewellery. They went into art a bit more, and then they went into this watches for sure. That's why watches are
analog art,
but into
more of the
contemporary art
NFT.
as well.
Yes,
They weren't buying the Monets, the Gasset, the Old Masters. It was the contemporary, because it resonates. It's the mood.
But also, like, you had the Tiffany collaboration with Nautilus, right? And I noticed one just came up unworn, unboxed, untouched. And that went for a fraction of price at auction as the other one went.
Yeah, what do you guys think, like, in terms of those collaborations? The creative director actually got sacked after that. So, but I wonder, because it's perhaps becomes then so rare, like in, 50, 60, 70 years' time, will that become even more valuable as a collaboration? Or?
Quite possibly. Yeah, because Tiffany have always done collabs and tie-ins, and whether they do the coloured dial or whether they just sign the dial.
But is there a difference, like, in terms of you guys in your industry, in terms of does something become more valuable if we go back to jewels again, in a set, or is it these individual stones, or does it not really, like when someone say, I want to start investing, which is like a question we get quite a lot, would you advise them to go for a rarer, like, stone, or would you say just buy, a set or something that you love, like the vintage piece that you've got some things to show us later?
Can we see what? Yeah, or we can see.
So these are fun. These are really fun items. They're not big ticket items, and it's.
Would you say these are good starting points?
As an investment?
No.
No, I wouldn't say this is something you treat as an investment. The one
so
good
we
thing
have
that
to describe this, because for the viewers that are just listening on the podcast.
So here we have vintage Italian handmade. It's, I guess you'd call the technique plique à jour, right? It's an old French.
Plique à jour. We're going back to Paris and Paul. Paul, would you like to pronounce that in the proper Parisian way?
Plique à jour.
Plique à jour.
Plique à jour. It's a little. Is it butterfly?
It's a butterfly. I haven't actually looked at it One of them is
You
signed.
haven't looked at it. You just brought it.
I haven't looked at it too closely. One of them is signed.
Blues and greens, and that's enamel, is it?
Thank you. Let me have a look at that. Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a very delicate, intricate
So
wing
these
design.
kinds of pieces you can pick up at the gold value plus a little bit more. You're not paying.
It's beautiful though.
You're not paying massive premiums, so I guess it would be a pretty safe investment of sorts. But I would definitely start with stones. Start small.
Yeah.
Go for something rare, something high quality, interesting color, because these things really are rare. And going back to what you were saying about if we released all the diamonds that have been hoarded by De Beers and Alrosa, would it crash the market? I don't know, because the largest mine in the world, the Argyle, just shut down.
Yeah.
Oh.
They just shut down. The Cullinan mine, I believe, is over 300 meters deep. I mean, how much deeper
can you go?
can they possibly go?
It's beautiful though.
So a lot of sources have been depleted. The old Golconda mines in South India, they're done. Russian mines. If you look at a picture online and you see these giant trucks, they look like tiny little specks of dust in these huge mines. So it's possible that I think in the next 30, 40 years, supply is going to drop drastically.
Okay, so
Drastic.
what's
So
your
start buying
take,
those
both of you,
diamonds,
of those lab
Ali.
diamonds? Those lab diamonds. What do you think about lab diamonds?
Lab diamonds have divided the industry into two. So, wow.
Are you going to fight it out?
Oh, I love the topic. I think
Yes,
it's great.
yeah.
And
It's great.
It's you go into anyone's apartment and they will have, people know the Monet, the Picassos, the whatever, because there is a print and people have got the print, and in a student house there will be a print of whatever. Now, that arguably enhances the price of the original when it comes to market, because there is only one original, and when it does come to market, everyone knows it because they've seen the print everywhere. But percentage-wise, very few people have actually seen the original. Now, when the original does come, then people know, and the bidding goes crazy. So arguably, it's more valuable. And I think there is a space for lab grown. There is a space for natural.
Absolutely.
But do you think they'll ever hold their value?
No, but that's the point, and it's made very clear.
So it's really the Zara of diamonds.
No, they're chemically, physically, optically identical. It is a diamond. It is diamond, but you just have to say this is a lab-grown diamond. I need advanced machinery to separate the two, and I'm a gemologist with 20 plus years of experience, but that's not a problem.
So if we had a real diamond and a lab diamond, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference with the naked eye.
Nope, you need machinery. So it does what it says on the tin, but it lowers the bar for young people, designers who want to have fun, who want to create something. I mean, imagine how much it would cost to create a massive dragon cuff with gold and diamonds, but something you might want to wear.
But it's just about people. Do we trust people, to be honest?
But now that's the thing,
right? As long as
right?
people are being straightforward and being transparent, saying, look, this is a lab. And I was walking around the show. I had a client looking for a 5-carat vivid pink pear shape. Super hard to find. Nothing on the market at the moment. Was at the Dubai jewellery show a couple of months back, and I walked around the corner. I was like, wow! And this stone was just popping in the window, and it was a 5-carat vivid pink. And I went up, and I'd never heard of the brand, never. And I was like, who is this? Obviously, some new player. And I went up, and I said, excuse me, this stone. And he came straight up, and he saw from Sotheby's, and he said, just to let you know. And there was no signage in the window. Yeah. He said, just to let you know. He said, this is lab grown.
Wow!
So
Gorgeous, gorgeous,
gorgeous. But I think now this will make you, I mean, I will not want to go and necessarily buy from unknown jewelers anymore, because you just don't know, unless you know them really well, how can you trust them? So this, I think, makes you then want to go back to the established jewelers, because you hope that Cartier, Bulgari and stuff like that will not be...
There is a way to kind of separate things. If you walk into a jewelry store, go to the Gold Soup, go to the Golden Diamond Park, your regular haunts, walk in and they'll have lab grown in one counter and natural in the other. The lab grown stuff will look too perfect.
Yeah, true.
They're all DEF color. They're all VVS, and the jewelry in this counter are, HI, visible inclusions, natural, lovely jewelry.
Yeah, lovely jewelry.
But it's very easy to tell them apart because
one is perfect and one is not.
Absolutely perfect.
But you may get then unscrupulous people that, someone wants to go and buy a diamond, they don't know, and they say, oh yeah, this is a diamond, then you'll end up.
I guess that's with everything.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask you a question that's probably important to a lot of our viewers, especially if they're female, if they're buying their first diamond, what would you recommend in terms of stone, in terms of shape, in terms of size?
Color.
Obviously, color. What should they, what's a good investment if they want something to hold its value, not necessarily, increase? I fell in love with a trilliant, and everyone said to me, you can't be buying trillions. They're not going to go anywhere
actually,
fast.
The prices
I
of
love
those
trillions.
went up a lot.
Can you tell the audience what that is?
A trillion is a triangular shaped diamond.
Yeah.
Like yours.
Yeah.
Maybe show the camera.
But for those, not everyone watches, so we always have to be mindful.
Oh, it's a triangular shaped diamond, essentially.
Yeah. I think the little black dress, the staple, is a round. And you get at trade at wholesale prices, you get rounds, and they're called pairs, but it's every other cut. So the rounds are one price, and then every other cut, whether they're cushion, pear shape, heart shape, marquise, whatever they are, they're the other price point. And the round really is, it's the staple. And the round, geographically, you can sell a round diamond anywhere. You get certain regions, like in Asia, in Hong Kong, there's not such a passion for pear shapes because they believe they can look like tears. And it's all about how you put the pear shape when you're displaying it in the window. You don't want to have it like a teardrop. You want to have it the other way down.
But also, I think
as well. A lot of it depends how long and how.
It's like a harlequin. I've never liked marquise.
A round is easy. A round is very easy.
I find a lot of people like to buy pears because they look bigger. So everybody always wants to buy, something that looks bigger.
Okay, so that's the shape. Could we talk about perhaps the kind of cuts that are around, available, or that are rare or exciting, or that excite you guys?
There's so many different cuts. Technology's gotten so much better. So you have your typical round, emerald cut, asher cut, pear shape, oval. Cushion, marquise. But there's all different, hundreds of different kinds of cuts. People cutting them to look like little horses. People cutting them to
the problem that I think we mentioned earlier is that, for instance, you can get a cushion cut, but it'll look smaller. The table size will be smaller than it actually is.
Yeah, proportion is everything. The cut of the diamond is everything. It's a science. Light behaves in a certain way, so it's all about learning to read a certificate. And look online. You can find what are the ideal proportions for a cushion cut? What are the ideal proportions for a round or an oval or a marquise, etc.? It's a very straight science, and when the diamond is cut correctly, the light response will be better.
Yeah.
The dimensions will look better. Even when you set it in a ring, it will look more proper. The shape the ratio should be correct. And, so it's cut and then colour. I'll leave that to you, Paul.
Yeah, I was going to say as well about the cushions. You want the stone to, because diamonds are if you're wearing them as earrings, if you're wearing as a pendant, as a ring. So it's what we call face up. So you're always looking from the top. So you don't want a diamond that's going to be super deep, because one carat is a physical weight. It's 0.2 grams. So
then you can have the carat.
So you can have a 1 carat diamond. And
so
you
it's
can
always
have a
good to be shallow.
diamond. You can have a 3 carat diamond that spreads like a 1 carat diamond because it's a very deep stone. Yes, it's a 3 carat diamond because physically that's what it weighs, but it doesn't spread like a 3 carat.
So basically,
ideally,
like in everything
you
else.
want to buy, say, a 2 carat 80, so you're not yet paying the 3 carat. You've got a 2 carat 80 that spreads like a 3 carat 20, but you don't want it to be too spready because then it becomes what I call the Carpaccio of diamond, where the light just goes boom and just disappears. Nothing's coming back up at you.
So there is too deep,
There's a fine line between compromising a little bit of sparkle for spready. Because
spready.
Like in everything else, guys, but size is key.
You were telling us also earlier on about, Misha was asking in terms of colour and carat, and you were saying you would actually prefer...
Yeah, I would prefer. So you get the purists who want a D flawless or DIF. And arguably, as soon as you touch a D flawless, as soon as you set a D flawless, it's automatically a DIF because the prong touching it probably does a little blemish on the stone, so it's no longer flawless externally. So that was a purist would argue that. But for me, if I'm not buying, or listen to me as if I'm buying them, but if one is not buying a D flawless, then I would do HVS too.
H is not yellow?
No. No, on a GIA cert.
On a GIA certificate.
Yeah, I mean, not to push one lab over another, but some labs are stricter with their grading.
I mean, I would always go with GIA. For instance, even when I bought that, each stone had to be GIA certified.
And for auction, all auction houses, we only take GIA. So if someone comes with an IGI or with another or a local
then
lab,
then
we will always send to GIA, and that's the benchmark.
Standard bearer.
Yeah.
And another thing to touch on with color, you know, when you go out to buy and somebody says, "Oh, I got a great deal on this stone," there's no real such thing as a great deal. Is it too deep? Is it badly cut? Is it fluorescent? Fluorescence is an issue. You know, walk into a nightclub and your stone starts to look a little bit blue under that light.
Like
it's not a good thing. And they say, "Oh, look at the color of this stone. It's fantastic." And they'll show you the stone face up, but a diamond will always be color graded face down. Because it's cut to give you so much light back. So be a little bit careful.
Is it also a problem now? Are stones being heat treated as well? Is that not on diamonds? I've heard people say, "Oh, this is heat treatment."
Well, treatments are a big thing in diamonds. You do get laser drilling. You know, they'll drill in to pull the inclusions out, or they'll use HPHT to make the color a bit better, or give it a fancy color. There are different treatments.
I've seen a lot of that with the yellows, like they're treated.
Yeah.
Because some of them look very canary yellow. And
coloured.
Yes, that's so.
It's more prevalent in the coloured stones.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I wanted to ask you, just moving away from that. So we sort of touched on some of the vintage brands. Is there say for example, a not so well known household name that you have your eye on in terms of the jewellery market or watch market? That's not quite a household name, but something really to keep an eye out. So for those early investors.
Are you talking about old names? Like vintage?
It could be anything.
Yeah.
It just...
You know, because there's a lot of new jewelers coming. Yeah. Like we all know, you know, the old, very old Cartier, Van Cleef, Boucheron is you know, holds a little bit of value. Not in everything, in certain pieces, definitely not like Van Cleef and Cartier. But are there, like, I think Nez means like the newer jewellery names on the market?
Yeah. Also, for example, like we had our watch episode where the independents are now having a surge and they're becoming more popular, they're becoming appreciated. So is there more, there's sort of, it could be an old house, it could be a younger house. I mean, we'll touch on some of your contemporary brands that you have, but just in terms of jewellery.
In terms of jewellery, as a starting investment,
anything,
I don't know.
Just to...
I'd say, I mean, some of the old American guys and French ones are really interesting, like Taffin, which is, it was from the Givenchy family, I think. Taffin, Taffin. Most wonderful jewelers.
Yeah. And Oscar Heyman.
Oscar Heyman
used to make for the other big jewelers, and they're still going, the family business. And they used to make the pieces for your Cartier, for your Van Cleef. So when you see those incredible, iconic high jewellery, Elizabeth Taylor necklaces for Cartier, Oscar Heyman.
I thought Nez asked a good question as well earlier about sets. I feel before, you know, when I first moved to the Middle East, everybody wanted the set. Yeah. It was the earrings and the necklace and the ring. I think
that was to do with marriage, no?
Yeah. Well, even that's how they were collecting, you know. But I think things have moved away from that, no? Or
and people mix and match now.
Yeah.
And you'll see that the daughters now will take mum's bracelet, so mum's got the set, or they'll break down the necklace and they'll set some earrings, or the earrings that are very dramatic, very imposing, and they'll just refine them and take, instead of 5 strands, they'll take 2 strands, make them shorter.
I'm hoping my father-in-law doesn't watch this, because that's exactly what I did to my Tahitian pearls. Sorry, Pops.
So, there we go.
But I was just thinking, you know, like the brands you mentioned and Fabergé, they also have this new resurgence, don't they? Because of the Alpha Dan family that commissioned them once again. An egg a few years back.
Fabergé was acquired by Gemfields. Gemfields are the biggest coloured gemstone miners. I think they're London listed.
Yeah.
But they actually acquired Fabergé and put a lot of effort into revitalising and reviving the brand. They've done some really lovely stuff.
Yeah, they came over. And
it's very intricate, though.
It's the mechanics. It's actually the mechanics of those eggs. But again, it's like you say, it's that kind of, that's what sells everything else. Because they have quite a big footfall in the region in terms of their one store. But again, they have a lot of private
I always look
sales.
at it for a brand like that, and I think, okay, what are the 25-year-olds now? Do you have a whole load of 25-year-olds scratching their heads thinking, oh, I can't wait till I can buy a Fabergé egg?
Absolutely.
Well,
but I can't wait till I get a
appreciation for it, and you can have, and it's the crumbs off the table because of that. And so as a brand, I don't think you want to have one staple, one thing that you're known for. You need to have several.
Yeah, which is what they're working on, actually. They're appealing. They've got some great neons coming up in terms of jewellery and how they're playing with their enamel and diamonds. So it's an interesting brand to watch.
There was a really interesting article in the FT a couple of weeks ago about Tiffany and the renovation and the refurb of the New York store, etc.
Yeah.
And at the very end, they quoted, I don't know who it was, but they quoted a luxury consultant. I thought, gosh, that is so pertinent. And he said, Tiffany is now going up market and they're trying to buy big stores. They are buying big stones. They're doing more important. They're communicating on the Tiffany diamond, larger stones, more high jewellery, etc., etc. And this consultant, it was the final paragraph of the article, and he said, at the end of the day, whatever Tiffany does, people will always prefer Cartier.
Always.
And it was true. It was such a
but it's true.
But it's true. The reality is, do you want that box or that box? When I was at Harry Winston in Paris, and I struck up, there was a guy looking for an engagement ring for his fiancée. We struck up a friendship, and he would come in every couple of weeks, and he's looking for a 3 to 5 carat cushion, yada yada yada. We narrowed it down, got the stones in from New York, and we were good to go. And he came in, he was so gracious, and he came in, he said, Paul, thank you so much for your help. It's been such a fun journey. He said, look, I've just come to tell you, I've got to buy at Cartier. He said, my fiancée doesn't know Harry Winston. Yeah. He said, your stone is bigger, better, and cheaper. He said, but she wants the red box. Yeah. And that's Harry Winston to Cartier. And it's the power.
Look, it's the power of Cartier, but she obviously didn't understand the stone, because you got to understand the stone. However, in everything else, I mean, I understand that. That was once I got a present in a blue box, and I said to Ali, baby, don't ever do that again. It's red box or nothing, not even Van Cleef. Oh no, it's true. And then I mean, it's.
I think there's one day we should get Ali onto the show.
Exactly. Could you imagine Ali and Omar on the show? So, that's what people fail to realize is that Cartier has a pull because it appeals to everyone. You have people that want, their bread and butter is the basic love bracelet, right? Which appeals to everyone, the plain one, right? Absolutely. And then you have, of course, you go up, you've got the diamond one, then you've got the full pave, then you've got the huge stones. Yeah, so it appeals to everyone.
Generational gap whatsoever is there in terms of a brand like that.
But Nez, that's the way it should be. Yeah. It shouldn't be that you can only go to Cartier to buy a huge, let's face it, you can only go to Graf if you're really going to spend a lot of money, right? But Cartier, that's the appeal. It's for everybody, and why shouldn't everybody have a piece of it?
Actually, that only goes back about 10 or 15 years, because a little more than 15 years ago, unless you had a gigantic budget, you just didn't go to Cartier. You say, forget it.
Yeah.
Because not only were they known for just very high jewellery, their prices were very strong, and the entry level was $7,000-8,000 plus. I might be wrong, but all the big guys, the Van Cleefs, the Cartiers, the Tiffany's, the Dior's, the Boucherons, the Chaumet's of this world, now you can walk in with $1,000 budget, but you get that box.
Well,
even if it's a small.
You'll be queuing outside for a little while, and then you'll be let in.
Exactly.
We had a conversation recently about the push brands and the pull brands, and that's so some brands, I've worked for a lot of the brands, and some brands you have to reach out and say, right, this is a new collection, this is it. And other brands, people just come to you, and that's the difference between a brand that's made it, but then it's managing that. It's like the restaurants. You don't want to be the best restaurant in town, or the most popular restaurant in town, because you're only going to go one way. You want to just bubble consistently just below, so you're super strong, for longevity. So you're super, super, super strong. And this is where Chanel and Hermes, they've mastered it, because they could have, especially in Asia, they could have just opened up multiple stores in multiple cities and made an absolute fortune, but even more than they do make in a very short space of time. It's so damaging for the brand.
But the fakes market, which there is quite a buoyant fakes market within the brands, they actually, a lot of the time, those brands say it helps them. It doesn't take away from them.
I think definitely in handbags, right? Or you think also in jewellery?
Even in jewellery.
Really?
It's just visible everywhere.
Yeah.
And it becomes more visible,
Yeah.
so that brand stays front and centre in mind, you know.
Yeah.
So there's always these like stories about how they actually have a hand in the fakes market, because really if they wanted to discontinue it, they could. So I have a question.
I don't know. I don't know that they could control that, though. I mean, to a certain extent, maybe, but not fully. You think? So,
It'd be more manageable.
yeah.
I just want to know if there was one piece, whether it be a piece of jewellery, whether it be a big rock, whether it be a watch, what is the item that you would want either of you to get your hands on?
Golconda.
Golconda.
Golconda. I
Yeah.
can't
It's like,
get away
James
from James
Bond.
Bond.
I know,
What's
exactly.
Golconda?
You?
Me, it would have to be an emerald.
Yeah.
An emerald.
Origin isn't a big deal. It's the
Yeah.
perfect emerald. I saw the most fabulous Afghani emerald
Oh,
from Panjshir. Wow. Which is really, you often find beautiful colors, but you never find good clarity because they still use explosives to mine up in the
Oh,
mountains.
wow.
This stone was
stunning.
as close to flawless as I've ever seen almost any emerald in my life.
Yeah.
And
I
you'd
mean,
both say
that-
that's the rarest thing that either of you, that you, the Golconda, and you, the emerald, that you've come across?
I wouldn't say it's the rarest.
But it's just the most beautiful.
Well, obviously the pink
Yeah.
might be the
And
rarest you've come across.
It's in terms of colour, yes. But someone sent me this morning a pink, a massive pink, vivid pink, nearly 50 carats.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
50?
And what will you do with that? Will you fight another auction house
Pinky
for
ring.
it?
Pinky. I think pinky would be nice.
But yeah,
Weighted
pink diamonds. I'd
Pink diamonds?
yeah, I'd jump all in.
Okay. And going one step further, if you came across one branded item that you could get your hand on, which brand would it be?
Art Deco Cartier.
Art Deco Cartier. For me too.
He's actually a contemporary designer.
Okay.
But you know him very well. I'm absolutely in love with Viren Bhagat's work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've heard. I haven't seen much of it. What do you think of Jar?
Just the craziest, best jeweler possibly ever lived.
I know.
And because you have to
I
put
would
Jar
see
in the
some-
context, because
Yeah.
he came, there was no one else
Way
doing
before.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now there are so many copies, rip-offs, and so many people have taken that path. And so you think, oh yeah.
Correct.
But when you see where the market was and what he was doing,
Yeah, it's
it's
completely-
mind-blowing.
True.
It's mind-blowing.
And he doesn't sell to everyone.
No.
He's very particular in terms of who he sells to.
Last but
Just
not least for the
last-
region, though, Tabah. I have to. Their stones, the way they set them, I think they're fantastic. Lebanese jewelry.
Hats off to Tabah. How many
Hats off.
generations? 5, 6 now?
No, I think only 3 actually.
Only 3? No, I think they go back to the 1930s.
I think it was. Now it's Najib. I think it was his father. It was his grandfather before. I think
Well,
so. 19. Yeah, definitely.
I think
1930s,
almost
but
100
yeah.
years, because my grandfather,
Yeah.
who I never met, was actually in Beirut. When they left from India, they were in Beirut.
Wow.
So my dad was born there, and even he speaks about Tabah
Let me
from
tell you, their stones, how they set them. I'm lucky to have a couple of pieces from him, and also their everyday wear, like their Evil Eye and stuff. So and you wear it, and you wear it, and you wear it, and it's. I mean, I've seen some of his big work. It's stunning. They
Paul's
will be
making a note
some
now.
pieces for the future
Beirut.
to see. Yeah.
Little trip. And just very, very quickly, we've touched on contemporary jewelry, and you've actually started working with a lot of contemporary designers. What makes you pick someone like Nadine Rossen?
For me, it's the feeling, the craftsmanship, how it's made, and Nadine's work is super fun. People love it. It's conversation.
Yeah, she did that
see the
croissant,
burger,
didn't she?
You see the
Burger.
croissant.
The croissant.
You see the burger ring. For me, Sylvia Fumanovic does these marquetry. She's an incredible Brazilian designer, and she sets stones in bamboo. Studio
Yeah.
Ren,
Yes.
Indian designers, they design their own concrete, and they set stones in concrete, and they made a concrete ring, but they made their own concrete first. So they're so granular in their approach,
Like
and
proper
their artistic,
concrete?
proper concrete.
Yeah. And you work with
so it's
Azza
18,
Fahmy as
18
well.
karat gold and then concrete around it, but it's super light and it's like pumice, and then they set stones in it. Hannah Martin is just this talent, amazing. And so she was classically trained, Central St. Martin's, and classically trained, picked by Cartier, learnt on the benches in Paris at Cartier, and was designing for Cartier, for Chaumet, for the Place Vendôme.
Repossi as well.
And then she went off, and then she started doing her own line. And she's just been appointed now. She's creative director at Moad as of just a few months ago.
Really?
But still doing her own lines.
Really? Fantastic.
Oh, and she's.
But I think Moad's trying to have a revival now because they
well
really
refined.
dipped.
She's and she's such a talent. And when you feel her pieces, they're heavy. Like they're really, because a lot of pieces, especially modern day pieces from the big houses,
concrete. I mean, hollow.
They're light, they're hollow,
Right.
and you're paying all this money. You don't feel like you've got something. Hannah's pieces, wow, you're.
I must
And
have a
in
look.
terms of Sotheby, it's more because people really buy into the heritage, right?
And that's it. And people will buy from a designer because of the designer. People will buy because of the color palette that they use. Or people
So if you
will
had to
buy-
take a punt out of those new designers, who would you buy into now,
Hannah.
looking to the future? Hannah?
Yeah, all the way.
do it.
Because she's such a talent. and-
Well,
got the top 5. So, as always, you out there, I asked you some questions, and you're always super, super about that. So I'm going to let Nez start with her top 5.
So we always like to make a fuss of top
God.
5.
Woohoo!
Are you ready? This is
Hello,
going to
just
be
knocked
like
myself out.
quick
Right.
stop fire.
Okay.
So we've gone back to, now this is actually, we did touch on it. So someone was asking, emeralds, Colombian or Pancher?
Pancher. Which
Which
to buy? Which to
Which
buy?
to put your money on?
Colombian.
Colombian.
For now.
Done.
Yeah.
Colombian. Always. Actually, if you can in emeralds, buy Colombian.
Yeah.
And Zambian.
And Zambia.
And Zambia.
Yeah.
I think this next person is just complaining.
Oh, gosh.
My son has zillions of trainers telling me they're good investments. True or false? Should they be insured?
Has he worn them?
No, they're apparently just
in a box,
like
in
boxes.
Yeah,
all
potentially. I had someone ping me a DM the other day, and he had a pair of sneakers, and he said, "I've received these. Are they worth anything?" And I pinged it to Zaki, my sneakers guy in London, at Sotheby's in London. €8,000.
Wow.
So he was
So a
happy
single
with that.
pair?
Yep.
Not bad.
Wow.
This is more a broader question. Opinion on buying pieces like the love bracelet. Everyone seems to have it to show status. Even if I like some pieces, I tend not to go for them. Should I not care? I think what she's trying
Buy
to say
what you
is she
love.
buy
Doesn't
what she
matter. If
loves.
you're going to wear it, buy
Wear
it.
it.
Nailed it. Buy what you
Yeah,
love.
buy what you love.
Last question is it hoarding or is it collecting?
Collecting.
Yeah. Of course you'd
Collecting.
say that. But I have a really good question here. It says, I love jewelry. How can I acquire that passion to become a true collector? Because I feel it takes time. And you do have to do the research, no? If you want to start collecting. But for me, I walk into it, especially like Burlington Arcade, and I think, oh, that's nice.
It's,
love
as I said,
Burlington.
Yes.
it's seeing the pieces, and again, Pritam, through his history and over the years, he's seen so many pieces, so many stones, and you suddenly, it's almost like you wake up one day and you realise, ooh, I know the difference between this stone and that stone.
But it doesn't always have to be stones, right?
I'd say go back to what you said. First, start with what you love.
Yeah.
If it's Art Deco, is it Belle Epoque? Is it, Victorian? It depends which period it's from. What do you love to wear? What do you really enjoy? Which period in history? Start there. Start small. Read. There's so much information out there. So much information. All Christie's, Sotheby's, Phillips, Bonhams, they all put their results up online for each auction, so you can actually piece it all together slowly.
But also what I
take
want
your
to
time.
tell people, it doesn't always have to be a collection. I mean, you can buy some of everything, right? You can have a couple of nice watches, have some nice jewelry. You don't have to buy just one thing, all of a sudden.
I think people, though, are focused more on future. So if they're spending big amounts of money, they've got to know that it's not just, for them, it's a big amount of money. So it's not something, they have to think about that. It's not something that they can just throw, you know what I mean?
I get that.
And to bear in mind, okay, it's a lovely space, and I think there's nothing more aspirational than jewelry.
Yeah,
More
I
than
agree.
cars,
I
more
agree.
than houses, anything. Everyone is still, I'm still in awe when I see a lovely stone. Everything, your mind is blown. It happens to everyone. These are not that liquid as an asset.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who, you know, my entire life is making jewelry for people, okay, the appraisals as well, designing jewelry and, you know, but
Okay.
As he's talking,
She's been
like,
wanting to wear this since it arrived. This is
I've
beautiful.
just managed to slip this into my pocket.
Yes.
But
Look at, I love the
that.
diamonds on that. It's just so delicate and lovely.
Can you tell us a little bit quickly about this one?
So these are actually really old Burmese rubies. I've had them for a long time, didn't know what to do.
So for those listening,
just
it's like a tassel weighted.
With pear and round cut diamond, bezel set on the chain, just to give a little shimmer and shine when
As
you
you
move.
do.
Yes, as you do.
With rose cut diamonds here, set sort of in a cross.
Yeah.
I like rose cuts because they're flat, but they glow. They're not too shiny.
I think
like
David
that,
Morris made
does
rose
have,
cut
Yeah.
really
I used to work for
famous. Did you? Sure. Okay.
Took me to Hong Kong.
Oh, nice. Didn't keep you there then.
Well, that's why I jumped to auction.
That's why you
I was
jumped to
losing all
auction.
my clients to auction house.
Exactly.
So I was like,
Well, that was fine.
I'll go
So
there.
this leads me very nicely to my last question,
Yeah.
which is, how can I trust a secondary source? This is what somebody just posted on Watch Fashionista. Thank you, guys. How do I trust a secondary source?
This for me is the niche of auction house. Any auction house. You know, obviously I work at Sotheby's, but any of the big four international houses, you can trust them.
Have there ever been any disasters?
Have they ever got it wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, people. Yeah, I'm sure there have been mistakes and stuff,
But nothing.
but the fact that all four are still going from 1700, they're on it.
So that's why,
the problem.
ladies and gentlemen, you pay the premium because you can trust them. And also, in many cases, you get some exceptionally good deals.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not on the fancy watches or whatever, or the big 10 carats or the pink diamond. But if you want some pieces, you can still pick up some good deals. How would you trust a secondary source?
Secondary source, you have to know who you're talking to. It's always good to ask other people in the industry, have you met this person? Do you know them? What is their experience? And also
Build a relationship.
Build a relationship, ask for certificates, ask for them to back up what they're saying on paper, have it verified by a third party. You know.
Common sense, guys, common sense. Do your homework, buy what you love, check things out, go to Sotheby's.
Could we get a final word from you guys? Final word on anything that we've discussed. Is there one thing that you feel that you want to share that you were unable to share?
No, I think we could.
Golcondas.
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 Yeah, I think that's
all the way.
That's
And you
all the way.
Find a Golconda.
I'll find you one.
You'll find it.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
We'll find you one. Pritam, can you find us one?
I will find you.
Oh, yeah, you'll find us one. There
Here's
you
to
go.
I got a guy.
Here's
Golcondas.
to Golcondas, absolutely. Any final words from you?
No, thanks. That was really fun.
Yeah.
That was
Thank
really,
you
really
so
a lot of fun.
much, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming.
Looking forward to this.
Yes, and we're looking forward to seeing you on our next episode. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for coming. Bye. Bye.